This book is the result of the efforts of many people, many people. And I can't thank them all, but certainly Nancy Hoffman of Nancy Hoffman Gallery made it happen with the wonderful help of Jane Law and the designer Michael Walsh, and the three incredible writers who created an arc for us. Lanie Goodman did my life, and what brought us to France and the time in France, and the paintings done in France, or some of the paintings done in France. This book is the paintings of the last 18 years. And Betsy, Dillard, Stroud interviewed me, and it's excellent. I was able to really be myself. And David Pagel he created my paintings in words. He got the energy and the dynamic in his words of how my paintings are constructed. I really appreciate that. So here we go. Moving toward the light. I thought it'd be nice if I just flipped the pages, give you an idea what the book looks like, and when it seemed appropriate, I would say something. His painting is the subject of the painting, and that's an idea that I believe, and I also became sensitive to that dynamic in reading Wallace Stevens, who is probably, along with T.S. Eliot, my favorite poets. When Wallace Stevens said, poetry is the subject of the poem. Yeah. I have no idea what will happen when I start painting. I don't. Here's our, what you see when you come in the gate from the street. This is a little pond and a waterfall, a little rivulet that we created here. I had constructed here for us when we first moved here. Calla lilies, maple tree, palm tree, palms. This is the page. This is the double spread, which is my favorite in the whole book. And it's a moment of total inspiration by Michael Walsh, the designer par excellence, who had this idea of taking some borders from my paintings and putting them up like this. I think it's so beautiful. Michael's done an amazing job throughout the whole book. There is in the act of painting an alchemical activity during which the painting reveals itself. I sort of spoke about that a moment ago. Here is the peach tree again. I don't paint flowers, I paint energy. Yeah, that's a big one. Lots of people say, I paint flowers, and that's that. but I never think of it that way. I take flowers as the point of departure, and in a way I go into them and through them and out the other side. And perhaps what I would like the paintings to be is documents showing the nature of nature, perceived through my nature. Not the last word, but a word. Here's a glimpse of the studio table and the beginning of Lanie Goodman's essay In the Studio Making Paradise. Here's a double spread of, on the left, a painting I did a few years ago of my studio wall at the time. And these are sort of depictions of photographs that were on the wall. It's a big painting. This is a detail. Most of these illustrations of paintings are details. And in the back of the book, there's a section where you see the whole painting, each painting, all the paintings that were done in this period, page after page of them, with the dimensions, the titles, etc., etc. So this was fun to paint. Here, on the other hand, is a photograph of a studio wall at a certain point. Here's Lannis, here's an oil I did when we first came. Lannis and me standing in front of a painting. Some birds, the mailman over here in France. I forget I don't think they do that in the States, but the mailman comes at Christmas time, New Year's, basically offers you calendars, and you give them a little tip for the work that they've done during the year. And so these are up. I always choose birds. This is a little picture of my friend George Loiseau's, who left this world, about 8-10 years ago. The last time I spoke to him on the phone, he said to me that he was waiting for the train. He was at the train station waiting for the train. This is an oil of Lannis's face, about 5 years after we got here. Here's a collage I made with her. A bird, Botticelli, Lannis, more postman things. Here's an image I've always loved, the Kyoto, Golden Palace in Kyoto. This is the top of the surface here, the Buddha, little meditation timer. There's another one, there's the collage, the Buddha, watercolor I did about 30, 40 years ago. There I am with my son Reuben, who's definitely taller than I am. He was about 18, 20. Yeah, he was probably about 18, and he was here visiting us. There's a photo of the Buddha, Dalai Lama. There I am at 80. No, at 80, my friend, our friend Janet Williams, made this collage of a picture of me when I was probably about 8, out on Long Island. Here's a collage I made with our bird Apache, and there's that painting of Lannis again. Another watercolor of my studio wall and the studio window, the bird cage we had in the studio at the time. There's a trunk of one of the pines and all the foliage outside reflected on the window, etc. Here's a piece in progress. There's a painting of a figure from Georges Braque that I carried with me since Yale. And then I made a collage of it over here. Here's an Egyptian couple, which I carried with me for years and years and years. It's hard to see, but here's a picture of Van Gogh, photograph of Van Gogh when he was just a boy. This is outside the bedroom window. Here's a picture, that picture of me when I was a little boy, and here's a picture of me when I was at Yale, Norfolk. I was about 21. I was 21. Here it says, my life, a destiny, which I unknowingly followed, slowly and surely. This is to give you a sense of scale, of the imagery with me, scale. This too is out from the studio window. There's a picture of me that my friend Peter Hujar took when we both were in Florence together. Here's something that Lanie wrote, added to the piece. It says, it was not what France gave you, but what it did not take from you that was important. Here's a watercolor I did in the first 2 years that we were here of Lannis in Sieste. Did a whole series, maybe about 10, 20 large paintings of Lannis in these flowered dresses of René Darty that we bought at the outdoor marché here in Antibes. Here's a picture of us when we first got here, more or less. And here we are about 2.5 years ago in front of one of the paintings. And here I write, not this art, nor this life could have been possible without Lannis. And I mean it. Another picture of my studio. It was summer. This is upstairs in Lannis' space. We have birds up there too, and a whole variety of things. Again, this is Lannis' rock garden, the garden. Here I am working, seen from above. My friend and assistant Sam took this picture. This is one of the paintings I did when Lannis was ill. One winter, one Christmas, Lannis gave me these orchids, and this is a picture of them in my studio with the dawn light coming in and making shadows from the bird cages. And I believe I entitled this homage to Juan Gonzalez, who was an amazing artist and who died. And he had done his work was very, very sensitive, like this. Very beautiful. Colored pencils. Here's a detail of when Lannis, of the painting I did when Lannis was sick, and there's a whole lot of angst on that face, which, interestingly enough, is not in the photograph or in the painting, but actually, I think it must have been in me when I was painting this painting. Oh, I seem to be ending Lanie's piece. Lanie's piece is wonderful. It speaks about our life here. It's just wonderful, just wonderful. So you really got the feeling of everything here. Now we begin an interview that Betsy Dillard Stroud had with me, and I really love this interview because somehow with Betsy we were able to, I was able to get to my essential painter self, and she understood because she's a painter too, and we were able to, I think, come up with something quite real. I'll just go in with something. I'll go with something that just picking at random. Betsy asks, describe your dialogue with your painting. And I answer, my dialogue all this time, and now more consciously than ever, is between the seen and the unseen. My painting is and has been a kind of conversation with mystery. I am humble standing before it. The subjects of the leaf, or the fish, or the flower, or the water are bridges to the other side of the river. This is painting I did, and it's of a branch of our cherry tree, a volunteer cherry tree, down at the bottom of the garden. Orchids. I think it's called Winter Light. Lannis went to India in '98 with a friend of hers, and she came back with most wonderful photographs. And this was a forest scene at dawn that she took for me. God, it's complicated. I'm just looking at it with you, and I'm particularly noticing this here. These blue areas with the purple behind it. God, isn't nature amazing? One of the things I like about painting nature and being part of nature myself is that the energy, my energy, is combined with nature's energy, and we create a third thing, or a third thing is created, and it becomes the energy which we call art. Art. This is a picture of the entryway. Here's the pond, Lannis, and our first dog that we had in France called Beauty. And here's the maple tree I was talking about earlier. I'm just noticing the trunk, how beautiful it is with the greens and the tans. Lannis's dress and the rose geranium leaves going over into her dress, her beautiful hair. Here's a series I did of fossils and shells and beautiful, beautiful things from the sea, all ancient, extremely, extremely beautiful. Seeing this bit of oystery shell here, I'm reminded of a painting I did in the late 60s, can you imagine? 50 years ago, of the inside of a oyster. I think you can see from these details how abstract the work is. I mean, to say what I'm painting is always abstract. Always abstract. There's the initial outline, which tells us that this is an iris. But then going into it, it becomes, well, just look at that. What is that? It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, abstraction, how everything is abstract. Another painting I did when Lannis was ill. This could have been called the Edge of Life series, but wasn't. Here's David Pagel, A Walk in Beauty. He begins this by saying 2 things about beauty. It's not a thing, and it doesn't reside in things. That's perfectly obvious when we are moved by a sunrise or sunset or some other earthly event that makes us pay attention to the natural majesty of our surroundings. So, I feel he really got inside the painting and inside the painting, and the way that the words and ideas intermingle with each other, I feel very much like that's how I paint. That's how I paint when I was looking at the abstraction before. Well, wherever it is. So abstract. This again is one of Manus's India pictures. Beautiful, isn't it? Dawn. Here I wrote or said, the painting is most successful when the me is mostly absent. I have Michael Walsh to thank for these big lettered statements. It was his idea. We had been talking on the phone at the very beginning, and he jotted down some things I had said, and when he showed me his first, what would you call it, sketches, as it were, first results of his design, they were here, and I think it really makes the book so strong. They stand with the paintings. When I was a student, abstract expressionism was the great abstract expressionist paintings were being painted by de Kooning and Pollock and the whole gang. And it's had a definite effect on my aesthetic of how, the field, the field. And here's a chronological directory of paintings. Here's all the paintings. And then, at the very end, here's the shows and things. At the very end, acknowledgements, so important. All the people who have helped all this be. And then, the final image, at the very end of the book, is me standing on the balcony of my studio. The end.